Great to see you all here joining us. Today we are covering a topic which I know from what's been going on with the podcast is super exciting and super important to so many of you because of just how many listens we have had to this topic whilst it's been live. Today we are joined by all of our Facebook ad guests. And I was a couple of minutes late putting this live because we've all been nattering away back in the green room. So it's going to be very cool to get them all out here because they are ready, willing and able to help us all with our Facebook ad questions. So get ready with those questions. You can start putting them in the chat box now if you've got something you want us to kick off with it. As always, I have plenty of questions lined up ready to go. But before we get into all that, I just want to remind you why we're all here. So we're here because this is part of what we do every month on the Keep Optimizing Marketing podcast. Each calendar month, we focus on a different topic. Our topic in February was Facebook ads, and during that we covered a whole range of different angles on Facebook ads. Then at the end of the month we do a webinar video just like this where we get everyone together to debate, to discuss all your questions and some more of mine about Facebook ads. So we're going to be talking about what's on your to-do list right now. And if you've got examples and things you want to discuss or results you want to discuss, we can do all of that. If you've not heard the podcast before, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc. Just search for Keep Optimizing. And we are very lucky to be sponsored by Klaviyo because without them, it wouldn't be possible to bring you the show. So that's kind of cool. Now, who am I being joined by today? Well, we are going to have the marvellous RJ Talia from Pattern 98, who does super clever stuff with Facebook images. And you can get their creative forecast at pattern89.com. And it should be 89 throughout, but my typo at the top is 98, so sorry, RJ. And what they do is they predict and they analyse through the wonders of artificial intelligence, what's going on with Facebook image ads and how you can make them work better for you. It's super, super cool stuff. We then got a lovely John Hagan, who some of you may have remembered from the eCommerce MasterPlan podcast episode we did about how he helps a jewelry brand to double every year. But now he is all about the Facebook ads and the Facebook dark posts at his new business, Volt Agency, of which he's the co-founder. You can find out more about them at voltagency.co. We then have Neil Shoney from Shoney Digital, who's an online marketing success coach who took us through a whole world of tips on text and segmentation. And the best thing to do to get in contact with Neil is to follow him on Instagram. That's at Neil Shoney Mac, where you can find via his bio, the link in his bio rather, lots of freebies. Then we have a lady to break out from all this mail that we've had so far. We have Lauren Schwartz joining us from the Loft 325, and she's a creative strategist and is all about improving your creative. So she came on and did a great session on video, and you can find her both at theloft325.com and as Lauren Schwartz on YouTube, where she's sharing some brilliant videos. And then we have also Antoine Gagne from J7 Media, who did a Facebook ad session over on eCommerce MasterPlan in February. So we're bringing the whole thing together. So any of you who are thinking, how have you managed to have 5 guests in a 4-week month? This is how we manage 5 guests in a 4-week month. And they've got a brilliant guide based on all they learned from managing millions of dollars in ad spend during last Q4, during last Christmas, and all the tips and insights from that are at experts.j7media.com/masterplan. Now, we will be including all those links when we send you the replay of this later on today. So if you're scribbling it down, A, I'll show it to you again at the end, but B, you're going to be able to get those all when we send this to you later on. And then, of course, there's me. I just get to host the podcast and play around with Facebook ads, but I am nowhere near the levels of intelligence of our guests. So I think we should get them out here right now. So guys, do you want to come and join me before someone asks a question that I can't answer, which is inevitably going to happen sooner or later? So let's get you all up on screen right now. There we go. Hello, everyone. How are we doing?
Good. How are you?
Good.
We are good. Now, the $1 million question right now is, can I hear Anton?
Do you hear me now?
Yay! everyone watching, we have had some problems with that. We have. So that is a massive relief because I hit play not knowing if that was going to happen or not. Right, guys, do you want to just quickly introduce yourselves? They've seen your static photos, but just want to just say hi to the audience, please. Oh, and we'll start with Neil. Sorry, I said that, shouldn't I? Just leave you all hanging.
Hey team, I'm Neil. I'm from Shoney Digital. I have been an online marketing success coach for about 3 years after about 7 or 8 years of doing one-to-one consultancy on Facebook ads.
Excellent. And RJ.
Hey everybody, RJ Tallier here. I'm the CEO and founder of Pattern 89. Excited to chat with you today.
And John.
Hi everyone, my name is John Hagan. I'm the co-founder of the Volt Agency. Just as Chloe mentioned, finished up as the director of growth at a German direct-to-consumer e-commerce business called Purelay, but now I have my own agency that focuses and specializes in dark posting. So I'm very excited to talk today.
And Antoine?
Yeah, my name is Antoine Gagne. I'm the founder and CEO of J7 Media. We're a Facebook marketing agency managing over $2 million a month in advertising. And we had the chance to have a great conversation with Chloe recently. And I hope to continue this conversation with you today.
Excellent. And Lauren?
Hey everyone, I'm Lauren Schwartz. I'm the founder and creative director of The Loft 325. Been designing video creatives for over 15 years and just specializing in all your, video creatives for Facebook.
Well, what I absolutely love and what you who've tuned in have probably worked out is we have a despite the fact you're all Facebook ad specialists, but we have a very diverse group of guests here. We've got everything from coaches to high-end tech, super clever tech, crazy stuff. We've got agencies, we've got new agencies, we've got experts on clever, crazy strategies, as well as full-on creatives. So we are ready and primed for all your questions. So please stop being British about it, because a lot of you are British on here right now, and get those questions in, because I can easily fill this with my questions. But Trevor, Jamie, I know you guys have definitely got questions, and I suspect the rest of you do as well. So please get those questions coming in the chat box, and I will do my best to get our panelists to answer them for me. I'm going to start off though with a big one, which we have people in different camps, I would say, amongst the 5 of you. We've got the creative focused people and we've got the more text or segmentation focused people. So if we are looking for a big bang, big buck improvement in our Facebook ad performance, would you start by tweaking creative or by tweaking segmentation or by tweaking text? Free for all. Who wants to dive in?
Go creative.
Yeah, I would say creative too.
There's a Nielsen study that I look at that shows that creative accounts for 47% of your ads performance. I saw another one come out, I think from Google, that was 70% of your creative. And with all the privacy changes and stuff, I think that really nailing your creative and investing there is going to be what's going to take you not only today to better performance, but getting in that habit is what's going to take your future performance up as well.
Mm-hmm. I'd say that good creatives and good offers can outperform a bad structure of your account, but a good structure of your account will not be able to outperform bad creatives and bad offers.
Okay, cool. Neil, I can see you're waiting to jump in there.
Yeah, no, I would totally agree there with what Antoine said about the offers and the creative. The way I tend to see with Facebook ad accounts, if the e-commerce brand is already at a decent level of scale, already running quite a lot of advertising, relatively successful with their Facebook ads, out of the options that you said there, the creative is always the thing that can have the biggest effect. But then if you look at the more starter e-commerce brands, so people at a lower level of spend, and they might even just be new brands in general, the biggest thing that tends to have the effect is the offer itself. So what is the thing that you're actually getting the person to do? Is it something that's enticing enough? Rather than, quite a lot of e-commerce brands will come out and just, put their product out there full price. There's nothing special about the offer. and they don't know why it's not converting. So they can tweak this here and there, but it can make minuscule differences. Whereas if you completely adjust the offer and make it what we would deem as irresistible, that can have the biggest effect.
Yeah, I would go with Antoine and Neil as well, and I would go offer. And I think when people hear offer, a lot of the times they hear like, oh, I need to offer a BOGO, or I need to change up, I need to have a 20% off, and that's not what I mean. I go much more in the direction of like what Antoine said. You can have a bad Facebook marketing strategy and a great brand and still make money, but you can't have a bad brand and a good Facebook ad managing strategy and make money. So I go 100% build the brand outside. If there's something that's not working inside of Facebook, and you've tried all of your tools, all of the tools in your arsenal, back to the drawing board on the offer.
Always. I'd say that, and maybe just to finish on this, a lot of people sometimes think a lot about the creatives, but they don't think enough about the offer. We need to realize that people are scrolling down on their newsfeed. They're not on Facebook to buy a product today. I'm pretty sure that none of us went on Instagram, on Facebook today saying, hey, today it's the day I'm going to buy this t-shirt. I'm going to buy these shoes. Nobody's doing that. So you need to have something very compelling on the newsfeed. And this is all about having the right offer at the right moment, and hopefully a creative that will be really catchy and get the attention of the end consumer.
So if we're then trying to perfect that offer, and Trevor, Jamie, I've seen there's questions coming in. I will come to those, I promise. Anyone else who's got questions, please do add them in. But if we're going to focus in on the offer, and if getting the offer is so right, are we best off testing the offer somewhere which doesn't cost us money before we add it to Facebook ads? So should we be testing the offer in our email campaign or in a physical retail store if we've got one of those and people are actually allowed into it at the moment before we use ad spend? Is that a good route? Test off Facebook first and then come on?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah, the less money you can spend in advertising, the best it is for you, right? I'd say that if you want to test an offer, because we know that an offer is not going to work every single time. If you have a good list and you can test your offer on your list before you spend money in advertising, go for it. And then if you have a good confirmation that your email list is willing to buy, then maybe it can be a sign that this offer can work on cold audience. Obviously, there are nuances here. We don't know necessarily at which kind of segmentation of your list you're sending this offer, but definitely I do think that the less money you can spend in tests and doing it on other audiences is better than go and spend $1,000 on Facebook with something that you don't even know it's going to work.
For me, it just depends on your situation, right? I mean, budget is just speed. So if you're a company, let's say you're a VC backed company, go to Facebook. Like if you have money, go to Facebook. But if you're bootstrapped and every single dollar counts, and you're looking at your marketing budget and it's somewhere in the 4 or 5 figures, you've got this email list. Why would you go to Facebook first, right? But if you're looking, budget is just speed. If you're looking to learn fast, put a predetermined amount of budget behind it, and then once that budget's spent, intelligently analyze the results, and then decide on where you should go next.
And you'd probably agree, John, as well, that if an offer is going to go absolutely on fire and it's going to be super, super scalable, you can learn pretty quickly, right? Like you don't actually need to put $1,000 in to say, is this going to work or is it not? You can usually see pretty quickly, is this something that's getting high click-throughs? Is it something that's getting people converting on the other side? And if it is, then it's time to, test it at a larger scale and see if it can work there as well. Yeah, absolutely, Neil. I mean, it's one of those things where it's sometimes the most exciting part of picking up a new client and going live with Facebook ads is that go live moment, because very well that within a matter of days you're going to know, are we onto something or does this offer suck, right? Or somewhere in the middle. But yeah, very quickly with Facebook ads.
That's a cool thing, right? It's a platform where you can put on and off in a matter of hours. That's a really cool part of Facebook ads.
Okay, we're going to go two, I feel like that debate could rage for a while, especially as there seems to be a little kind of a pack of Antoine, Neil and John getting quite excited there about what we're talking about. But we're going to switch it up, as is the nature of these Q&A sessions. We've no idea what's going to come up. So the first question we've had in from the audience it's one from Jamie, and it's, what's a new Facebook technique or tool that is super powerful but people don't know about or aren't using yet? And I'm going to come to RJ first. A, to give the others a bit of time to think, and B, because RJ represents a cool new Facebook technique or tool that's super powerful. So RJ, your tip on this front.
Well, I mean, I don't want to go into a full sales pitch mode, but it's an interesting kind of pivot off of what we were just talking about, which is our software, it simulates A/B tests. And it simulates thousands of them using AI. And so, I think that definitely Pattern 89 is a great tool, but we have these creative forecasts that can show you what's working across 26 different verticals. And that could be an easy way to kind of find a starting point for what's working for others in the vertical. And then you can, of course, simulate with our software, but that's, there's other, mass testing solutions out there that can help save time and money. And the reason why I bring that up is because the creative production, especially for small businesses, to create lots of different offers drains the budget, and when we're creating all those different versions of things, it's cheap to learn what works, but it's expensive to get the creative into market and then to run the reports and that type of stuff. So that's something to consider as you're figuring out what tests to run. Can you take it back a step and look at data from others? And of course we can help with that, but that's the sales pitchy part that I don't if you're interested.
Cool. Anyone else got a new Facebook technique that's super powerful and people aren't yet using? So Jamie can get a step ahead of all his competition.
I'll kind of step in just on the creative front. For me, I do obviously a ton of video, but honestly, I think one of the biggest things that I'm utilizing for like a Facebook tool technique is actually utilizing TikTok creatives. A lot of people on there, TikTok trends are so popular, and just having those really organic looking kind of posts and trends are actually working extremely well for a bunch of my clients. So, you don't need to have a huge budget in order to kind of make those, creatives for your audience.
Love that. We talked about on the podcast, didn't we, Laura, about stealing from Facebook, stealing from TikTok and using on Facebook.
Yeah, exactly.
Go where the creatives are if you're not quite sure what to do. Love it.
Yeah.
Anyone else got any little tips for cool new
I don't know if it's necessarily new at this point anymore, but I'd have to go into to talk about dark posting a little bit, right?
It would be wrong if you didn't, John.
It's one of the primary services that our agency offers and leverages, and we've seen tremendous growth with it. But it's not necessarily new. I've been doing it for 3 or 4 years now, but it's really I'm seeing it more and more come to fruition and just come to like widespread use within marketing strategies. And that's just sort of the marriage of paid social advertising and influencer marketing. And it can be a really powerful weapon, especially for early stage startups and brand new brands to become synonymous with an influencer and leverage the trust that influencer has spent their hard-earned time, energy, and effort creating for your brand instead of actually putting your hard-earned time, energy, and effort into growing the trust of the consumer over years and long periods of time with your advertising efforts. So dark posting is absolutely still, I guess, kind of an infancy stage, but we're exploring it heavily.
Cool. And Neil, Antoine, anything you want to add at this point, or we'll kick it on to Yeah?
But yeah, I think it's not necessarily new here, but I do think it can be a cool tip for the audience if you are at this specific period in your Facebook advertising journey, because everything is about where you are, at what kind of budget you are. But one of the things that you're going to face when you're doing Facebook ads is you're going to face ad fatigue at some point, because people will see your ad a couple of times, and then for that reason, automatically your results will go down. And there's a thing that has been there for a while now, but I'm not sure everyone, or at least the people that I'm talking to, they don't use it that much. From the moment you have an offer that's working well and creatives that are working well, make sure that you structure your campaign in a way where you use the tool, the technique called the dynamic creative. So basically you let Facebook, you give the best creative that you have so far to Facebook in a campaign, and Facebook with this AI will be able to distribute the ads that thing that at the best moment will have the better chance to win the bid. And honestly, from the moment one of our accounts is at a certain scale in their journey, all the accounts are going in dynamic creatives, and this solve the problem of ad fatigue, which I think is one of the the biggest problem that you're going to face in Facebook ads.
So Antoine, I cut my teeth with Google Ads, and anyone who spent a lot of time with Google Ads, the moment, certainly historically, that Google told you they had a tool that could do it for you, you looked at it with a great deal of suspicion as something that would probably make Google a lot of money and not make you much money. So is that not the case with Facebook then? When we see, because I'm just ingrained that on an ad manager, if I see something that they say will work, I'm like, I'm not sure I believe it. I'll go manual, thank you. Should I not be taking that approach to Facebook manager?
I do think it's a great question. I do think that obviously, if they're telling you that, you can always have second thoughts around that. Now, the real thing to do, from my opinion, is test it and see if it works. And if it works for you and it works for your clients and everybody's making more money, that's great. Your client's making more money. Facebook is getting more money because obviously you're going to scale. And then if you test it a couple of times and the answer is not positive, then just be smart about it. But I do think that the big difference with, let's say, Facebook ads and maybe to some extent Google ads is Facebook, they need people to create the content. Yeah. They need people to create the videos, to create the offers, which is why with all the meetings that we have with them every single week, they're always saying how important their partners, their agencies are for them. Is it true? Let's hope that it is. But I do think that there is a big distinction between advertising on a platform where creative is so important and advertising on a platform where creative is important, but not necessarily as much as on Facebook.
Okay, Neil, I'm going to give you a chance to give us your newfangled tip in a second, but we've had a kind of like a point of order question come in from Anna, which is to John, which is, to do dark posting, I need to access the influencer's business manager, or how do you manage it? Can you give us a quick one on that, John? Because obviously I'm going to redirect Anna to listen to our podcast where you explained it in great detail. So the quick answer now would be great.
Yeah, no, you don't have to get access to a business manager of an influencer. You have to have the influencer add your business as a partner. So it's less intrusive than that. You're not actually running ads through an influencer's business manager. You're staying within the confines of your business manager. You're just adding a partner to it, which is an influencer.
Nicely explained. Thank you. And Anna, yes, listen to the whole episode on it because it was excellent. Neil, coming back to you, what new technique are you finding working at the moment?
I'm going to go a bit left field here and say that I've probably been running Facebook ads quite similarly, other than, obvious updates that come along here and there. I've been running campaigns quite similarly for the last 5 or 6 years. The same, starting with the offer and making sure it's irresistible, testing out the offer to see which one's going to perform better than another one, testing audiences broadly to make sure that you're not putting all your eggs in one basket with one audience, and then testing creative broadly. And then being hyper aware of what worked, what didn't, removing the things that didn't, and then scaling up from there. And it seems simplistic, but that's advertising, and it's transferable from Facebook ads to other platforms as well. So a bit left field from the question, but I'm not really using anything that I didn't really use 4 or 5 years ago, I don't think.
I think I think it's a really good point to make, because it kind of comes back to that. It's very easy to just get distracted by the new, especially when you're feeling uncomfortable with something. It's like, I'll find something new and that'll make it easy. Whereas actually, I think the great thing about the different examples that have been recommended is they are ways to accelerate a strategy that's already working. So you've done the fundamentals, you've got the offer, you've got the copy, you've got the image. Then you can use I'm going to forget the name of it, Antoine, what's it called? The Facebook?
Dynamic creative.
Dynamic creative. I knew I was like, I could try and waffle through this. It's not going to work. I'll just ask. You could use dynamic creative to then amp it up. Or as Lauren says, you could go to get some TikTok creatives to create a new video about the same offer. Or as John says, you could use your influence a bit to kind of ramp that offer out to more people, or in RJ's case, you could accelerate your testing process. So I think it's completely the right thing to bring up. So thank you for mentioning that one, Neil. Right. We've had the question that we were all dreading or anticipating, I suspect, come in, which we'll try and keep short, and I'm going to sandwich it in the middle so we go on to something more exciting afterwards. But it's iOS 14 changes, which I know I spoke with a few of you on the podcast about. What are you doing? Are you doing anything about it? Who fancies jumping in?
Of course.
Oh, and whilst you're all thinking about your answers, for those of you who are going, what's the iOS 14 changes? This is to do with privacy and cookies and stuff that's going on with Apple that is going to affect how much you can do with Facebook ads based on how much information Facebook is able to gather about the people who are holding their iPhones. So it doesn't make a lot of difference to how you run Facebook ads. It just probably makes your audiences less powerful and less voluminous, I suppose. So it's certainly not something to run screaming to the hills about, I think, anyway. But what do you guys think? Antoine, you're nodding a lot when I was saying that. So what's your approach to the iOS 14 changes?
First, you need to do things. Like, obviously, you need to do things like simple things that I'm pretty sure you already covered on your podcast with your different guests, but verifying your domains, making sure that you prioritize 8 events, all these different things that Facebook is telling you to do. Now, it's really important to know that a lot of noise has been made around iOS 14 since the beginning of the year, but it's not up and running yet. Okay, so the prompt of Apple will be live. They're saying early spring. So it's not even there yet. Only some accounts in the world, like the NBA that I saw, they had the prompt yet, or other different apps have it, but it's not up and running. So people are saying, hey, I don't see any difference in my ads manager in terms of results since iOS 14. It's because the prompt of Apple is not there yet. So it's really important to understand that. But yeah, obviously you will see changes because if people are opting out from the ecosystem of Apple, automatically you're going to lose some of your conversions. But the last thing I would say here is it's a really big thing in general, but it's important to realize that people who use iOS and go and use the ecosystem of Apple, it's not everyone on the web right now. So these changes are affecting a percentage of people who are browsing, who are clicking on ad, but not everyone. Maybe it will affect everyone in the future because other regulations are up and coming, but right now it's not everyone who's going to be affected based on where they browse and where they click on ads on Facebook.
So, Antoine, it'd be fair to say you're taking the steps that Facebook's recommending, and we'll share a link to that afterwards with the replay as well. But other than that, not losing too much sleep over it.
No, and another thing that I would say is it's really important that if you always relied only on the ads manager to look at your results, that you start to think about other ways to look at your results in terms of Facebook ads. There are a lot of great softwares out there that gives you a way better attribution on the results that you would like to achieve. I'm thinking right now about Segmetrics or Wicked Reports. Maybe these are links that you could put in the show notes that we use with several of our clients. Only looking at Facebook ads to understand your results, I don't think it's good enough. So I would recommend the audience to look at your results, not only in the ads manager, but in different ways, different other softwares as well.
Cool. Yeah. Anyone, RJ?
I disagree. I think, Antoine, you're giving a really good kind of short-term recommendation there. I think that iOS 14, in combination with all of the rest of the privacy initiatives that are underway, like GDPR, California data protection, and then Google's announcement last week, which I know we're not talking about Google, but Google is now going to not allow cookies, but then also marketers are holding up hope for email or hashed email addresses as that identifier. I think over the next 3 to 5 years, it is going to be a lot different than what we see right now. Neil, I like kind of that back to basics, like just do the work. I like that approach. because I think that that's always going to work. But I think like with marketers, I think we have to make a switch wholeheartedly towards creative and make sure that we have stunning, interesting, like passionate, outlier level creative that attracts the people that we want, because we can no longer hyper target them. Instead, we have to kind of hyper target through the content that we're producing. So I would do all the things that Antoine just listed off and make sure to hit all those immediately, but then find yourself a really badass designer or call Lauren right now. That your video is stunning, so like it's got to be, it doesn't have to be expensive. And I love some of the ideas like the cheap, fun outlier. Like we're struggling with that on our own creative at Pattern 89, but find a great designer who can iterate on cool, sexy, interesting creative. Because one of the things that I do is I did this presentation where I pulled creative from 5 different women's yoga brands, and I anonymized them. And so you can see they're all, normal, like generally attractive women, healthy people doing a pose outside. And if you like pull back the brand, you're like, I don't even know whose brand that is. Mm-hmm. It could be, a famous brand or an unknown brand, but they're all using the same creative approach, which means that the consumer is like, well, I don't know, this looks the same as that one, even though this yoga pant is, a fifth of the cost of that one. That's a problem. And I think that in a world where we can't hyper target, we have to make sure our creative is just stand out, different enough that we can make it in the long haul. So I'm like going to carry this creative flag with me as much as I can, because I think that is the difference when a world of privacy is the wave is here. We're being, all the data and privacy stuff is going to be just hitting us hard.
Lauren, as someone who's also on that creative side of things, is that the approach you're taking to the ISO 14 changes, is to really just double down on brand and clarity?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things like with the iOS 14 update, it's so unknown. I mean, yes, like I agree with Antoine, like, yes, do all the things that they're recommending. And I agree with RJ as well, but we don't know what's going to happen. And so it's really hard to say like, yes, do this, this, and this when we don't know. And so I agree that it's going to change. And I think that things, obviously you have to adapt to it. But I mean, really, that's why we're marketers, like we have to adapt to change all the time. And so I just feel like, I know everyone's kind of freaking out about the whole iOS 14 update, but at the end of the day, it's like, I don't know what's going to happen. But again, I'm always going to rely on creative because I agree. I think that creative is so important. But it's just going to be something that we're all going to have to adapt to and figure it out.
And John, I'm guessing from your perspective, as you're offering kind of a new way of creating great creative and a new way of targeting that is less affected by the iOS 14 changes, you're quite excited about it all.
Yeah, I'm stealing Neil's answer. I think that actually I'm stealing Neil and Lauren's. The best quote I've heard about iOS 14 in regards to marketing is that as marketers, we're called to be surgeons, not doctors, right? Like we can sit here and we can freak ourselves out and we can pace around the room, which trust me, I did plenty of when I heard about the changes. But at the end of the day, we have no idea. I've sat in clubhouse rooms after clubhouse rooms with people that are trying to forecast the changes and tell everybody exactly what's going to happen. And I don't think anybody has any idea. I don't even think Apple or Facebook knows what's going to happen. I mean, at least to the extent, like, look at the small change that's happened because of iOS 14 already, right? The 7-day click view attribution window that we have to view the ads manager through now. We can't even aggregate our data in Facebook right now. Like, I mean, unless we have the same attribution window, right? Like, I just think that tiny of a change creates that catastrophic of an event in the ads manager. I think that the changes are going to be pretty profound. But at the end of the day, like Neil said, I mean, people have been making money before we knew how much money we were making on Facebook, and people will be making money far after iOS 14 goes through the system. So, I mean, maybe that's an optimistic, hokey pokey view of iOS 14, but I don't know. I'm a surgeon. We'll figure it out, right? Like we're gonna test, we're gonna act agile, flexible, etc., and we're gonna, stay the course.
Yeah, I have to say I'm very much of your opinion there, John. I think one way or another, all these things come, the cookie law was going to be the end of everything. For those of you in the UK and Europe, when we had to put cookie pop-ups on everything, that was going to kill everything. And strangely enough, it didn't. Neil, your thoughts on iOS 14 to round us off, maybe, or provoke further controversy?
Very much the same. I mean, just like in everything with life outside of Facebook ads as well, there's always a best case scenario. And if you're always seeking the best case scenario, the best information, and putting the best foot forward, then, there's always going to be winners and losers. And, if we're, keeping in these sort of panels and clubhouse rooms and figuring out what can we work with right now in terms of iOS updates and future updates, bear in mind, there'll be an iOS 15 update. There'll be more things to come in the future as well. And so if we look at it like that, and let's say things do get a lot tougher and they do get a little bit more techy and they get a little bit more complicated, well, guess what? The people who aren't marketers and the people who aren't educating themselves are going to have a really tough time of it on Facebook ads, and they're going to come off the platform. And in a bidding platform, that means less people on the platform, less people spending money. Maybe our ad costs go down. And maybe because we've got everything in place, maybe we're still able to track the sales data, the top line aggregated events that we're focusing on. So, if we look at it that way, there's always going to be a best case scenario, and that's really what we've got to aim for here.
So there we go, guys. Keep calm and carry on, and do all those things that Facebook say and make your creative better. I think that's our full bullet points for that one. Okay, right. I said we come back to something slightly more exciting again. And for anyone who's watching this on replay, the reason everyone apart from me is drinking lots is because it's ridiculously early in the morning in the US where everyone else is. So
I was going to make a comment. I haven't seen Lauren drink coffee one time, and she's in the earliest time zone.
Well, I had one sip. I already downed a cup before I started, so we're good.
just got an IV line of caffeine under the desk. Yeah. I'm just drinking tea because that's what I do. But yeah, it's far better time zone for me. Anyway, outside of time zones, we've got another question coming from the audience, which is, it's a really interesting one around how well is Facebook working in terms of prospecting? So getting ourselves in front of people we don't know yet, but who are pre-primed to buy. And I can see nodding heads, so I can tell this is going to go well. But Lauren, I'm going to come to you first, because we had a discussion about this in your episode, because I was suggesting that, I was asking the question of what sort of message we should put at that top of the funnel. Do we go all product or do we go all brand? So could you tell us a little bit about how you approach the getting the prospects, the people who don't even know who you are?
Yeah. So for me, the biggest thing is obviously getting the product in your face within the first 3 seconds. I do think that on a prospecting level at the end of the day, you're trying to sell your product. And so I think with, the brilliance of Facebook, there's so much testing that you can do that for me and our audience and clients, we try to get as much of the product, within the prospecting level, do a ton of creative testing, really focus on, like I said, the features and the benefits, really nail down what those are, and really just getting that across as soon as possible. And then on remarketing, we really try to focus more on the brand. And kind of tell more of the story. Because, as you kind of go down the funnel, you're going to be served more ads. And at that point, you can start to talk more about the brand and, more about the product and everything that it does for you. And then obviously having your landing pages as well is super, super important, and making sure that your website is really explaining more about the product, because, again, at the end of the day, you're trying to get that person to click and to buy. So that's kind of where we focus on. But again, it's all about dynamic creative testing. I totally agree with you, Antoine. Like, that's all we do in our accounts. So I think that's such an important step.
Anyone got a counter to that then? Product first, brand second for the prospectors?
I'd say maybe one thing here. It's really important to also see Facebook as a place where you can create audiences. So for instance, a lot of our clients will do the same thing, you know, creating great ads around great products to make sure we're able to sell products. But always remember that Facebook is an amazing place to generate emails and grow your email list. I do think that there is so much value of making sure that you have a healthy mailing list, and Facebook is an amazing platform for that, creating a great piece of content that you can do on a cold audience in exchange for an email. I did several tests with other platforms, and I didn't find a platform where we're able to transfer a complete stranger to someone in our list where we can send content every single week so easily. So I do think that people who advertise on Facebook should always think about how can I increase the number of emails that I do have on my list, because we know that for a fact, your email list is one of the, not the only, but one of the main thing that you own compared to a number of people that follow you on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. So for prospecting, always keep in mind that increasing the number of people that you have on your list is so valuable and so important.
I like that. So use it for prospecting and increase your email list at the same time. John, you were going to come in there on our prospecting angle.
I do. I think Lauren's strategy is I think it's great. I think it's a bit incomplete from my perspective. What we do is, I think some of that, probably not as well as you do it, would be my guess, from the content side. But what we, I cannot change the fact that cold traffic doesn't know or trust my brand, but I can change who I'm working with, right? So we work with a variety of influencers, ranging from Jonathan Van Ness to the mommy blogger who has 10,000 followers, to sort of like I think it's Antoine who said it earlier. People are not on Facebook's not an intent-driven platform, right? People aren't on Facebook to leave Facebook. They're not on Facebook to shop, but they're on Facebook to engage with people who they know and to interact with influencers who they admire. So that is where we come in, where we lead with the influencer and then follow with the USPs of the product or service that we're offering. I think that combined potentially with Lauren's strategy, which is why I'm gonna follow up with you about creatives after this call. But that's the complete package right there, right? Is if you can find someone or something that is familiar to the to the follower, regardless of if it's cold, warm, lukewarm traffic, and then follow up with the unique selling points of the product. That's the home run for me.
You know, I have kind of a question, which is like, I don't know if I agree on well, I know we said they're not on Facebook to shop, but I think people do go on Instagram to shop. Like, that's like, people describe it as like the new Sky Mall. You know, it's like they do want to shop there. So I wonder, is the strategy anything like, is it different than, you know, or I don't know, John, if you would have a different opinion. Sorry, Chloe, I don't mean to take over the. No,
this is brilliant. I love it.
But I'm just curious, like, you know, is this, you know, because Facebook wants you to publish once across all their platforms, but I mean, Instagram just feels so much different, like it is a virtual shopping mall, right?
That's what Instagram and Facebook have done such a beautiful job of, right? You have Google, you have the opposite sides of the spectrum, right? Let's go TikTok on this side and Google on this side. Where Google, you get on Google to get off Google, and TikTok, you get on TikTok to be on TikTok for 4 hours and then forget that you're on TikTok, right? Mm-hmm. I think that Facebook does a beautiful job of meeting in the middle, where you have entertaining cat videos, but also you can sell furniture, right? Like I agree with you, RJ. I think that we're a little bit harsh on Facebook, that people don't get on Facebook to get off, right? You have the marketplace now. You have, and it's not a barrier to their monetization as a platform for people to leave Facebook when they're on it. But certainly you have that problem on platforms like TikTok, maybe a little bit more on Instagram, certainly on Snapchat. Those kind of platforms certainly have a difficult time getting their customers off of their platform, as weird as that sounds.
I think you also make everyone's making really good points, but I think we often end up just talking Facebook ads because that's what we log into as marketers. You know, we log into the Facebook ad manager, which just happens to do Instagram as well. You know, it's like, oh shit, Instagram ads as well. So I think it is interesting, isn't it? Because whilst our ad platform is essentially the same, and you can just I think it's not untick the box rather than tick the box, and your ads are just on Instagram. Mm-hmm. But are consumers using the two platforms in different ways for their shopping habit? Because I think they're a very different experience from a user perspective. Lauren?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I kind of feel like with, Facebook and then Instagram, going back to John's point, that's a lot where influencer marketing comes into a huge play, because on Instagram, it looks like someone's talking to you, just literally sharing a story on their feed. And so, I mean, designing it, you definitely have to think about each platform differently. And so, Snap, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, Google, like it's all different. And so when you're designing and thinking about what's actually going to go in the feed, what's actually going to go on, the Instagram side, like it's all different. And you have to kind of think of each consumer in that way of how you're actually designing for that platform. So I think it goes in a lot of different ways. Like when I design for feed, it is a little bit different than how I design for an Instagram 9x16. So it's definitely, you have to think about all the ways that people are interacting on each platform. And it's, you're going to have to design and execute that way.
Little bit more work for you there, everybody. But it will pay off. Neil, before we move on to the next question, what's your perspective? How, can you still on Facebook go after that pure prospecting activity?
Well, that's my favorite thing to do in terms of e-commerce with Facebook ads. I think if you're looking at Facebook ads as the profit center of your business, you're probably going to be pretty disappointed with it. It's an amazing tool for acquiring a customer at break even or better for the very first time. And as long as you do have an irresistible offer there that has got margins still built into it, you can actually get in front of completely cold prospects with very good ads and acquire them as a customer. And then your back end systems is where the fun happens. Your email, the exciting experience, the fact that they'll just come back and buy without any future ad spend or things needed to happen as well. That's where all the fun happens. And so whenever I'm working with a brand new client or somebody comes into one of the courses as an e-commerce brand, I'm usually saying, first of all, let's make sure the back end systems are optimized. So when you have a new prospect come in and buy from you, the back-end systems are going to take over from there and turn them into a second purchase, third purchase, fourth purchase, and so on and so forth. The second step being, what is going to be that front-end offer that has the margin within it, that as long as we have good Facebook ads with a great offer and we test broadly, we're going to be able to find that sweet spot of the right audiences with the right creative that bring in the customer at break even or better. And then for me, it's just about scaling to the point of, well, how many people can we acquire in a month that possibly had never heard of us before, but certainly had never purchased from us before at break even or better.
And just to Neil's point, because I think this is so important for the audience, what Neil just said is like, it's really cool if you can make a lot of profit on a cold audience on Facebook, but usually with all the clients that we're working with, these clients want to do profit, but from the moment you scale, you understand that you're not going to make as much profit on the first transaction, but everything happens on the back end. And I do think that agencies, consultants, that's where it's really important for us to educate these customers that at some point when you scale, the first transaction is not as profitable that it was at a lower investment, but all the money that you're going to do on the second transaction, third transaction, and all these things, that's where these companies are really able to shift and grow exponentially.
And I think we were all there when we first ran Facebook ads, and we were targeting people who'd visited our website in the last 3 days and spending £10 a day on ads. And we were like, we're absolute geniuses, 38x return on ad spend. This is
exactly.
It just doesn't work like that when you're spending thousands per day.
Yeah.
It is the law of diminishing returns. Right, everyone out there, we may have time, if anyone's got a quick question and they add it in, we might have time to add it, but I'm going to ask one of the questions that's coming, which hopefully is going to be a fairly straightforward answer. Who knows? Anything could happen with these panelists. Right, so Facebook likes. Should we be running campaigns to get likes on our page? And should we care about the audiences that are people who liked our page? Or is like just something that happens these days that as advertisers we don't care about? Any points of view on this at all?
I'll jump in and I'm totally open to being wrong here, but I've never seen it as a really profitable way to spend ad dollars to run it on like campaigns. Second to that, even though that in my head it makes sense as a great audience to be targeting, I've never been like, oh, the best audience that we're targeting on your account right now is people who like your page. I've never said that to a client ever. So to be honest, I don't see it as a priority out of all the things that we can do with your ad dollars. And second to that, if you do have a lot of people liking your page, I've still to come across, and I test it. I tend to test it with every single ad account I have as well. I'm yet to ever say this is the audience that's working best.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, similarly to Neil, we've all had that experience where, I'm sure we've all had that experience where we're like, if we just targeted add to cart, we're so close to a conversion, right? They'll just go line, and then you target add to cart and you get add to carts, right? I'm always amazed and baffled by how precise the algorithm can understand what user will complete which action. Like if you target traffic, you'll get traffic. If you target likes, you'll get likes. Likes to me are a residual effect of solid conversion-based targeting. Like if you are targeting conversions and you're hitting the right customers and you have a full funnel developed and segmented funnel, likes will happen as a result of that advertising. It's not something that you go after, because if you're going after likes, you're going to get likes.
So don't pay for likes. We lots of shaking heads there. Okay, well, it's definitely don't pay for likes, anybody out there. This is not a campaign you want to be running. And it's worth testing as an audience, but don't think it's going to be the cleverest thing you've ever done.
Correct.
I love that. I've got everyone to nod and I just got everyone to shake their heads. Marvelous. Well, look, we haven't had another question in, so we are going to start the wrap up now. I have, for those of you who are live on the call, I've just shared the links to all of our guests in the chat box. You can grab those now. If you are watching on the replay, there'll be a link somewhere near you, or you'll even be on the page where all their details are, together with those couple of tools that Antoine shared earlier on. So you will get all of that. If you're on here and you want to replay it, if you want to play it to your team, send it to your Facebook ads agency and tell them to get their asses in gear, whatever it is you want to do with this video after we finish recording it, we will be sending that out in a couple of hours' time, basically as soon as I've got the video processed and the email written, it will be coming out to you. And that is the next thing on my to-do list after this. So it's coming to you very soon. And I should now just, now I've learned how to share screen. I just love it when tech changes the interface when you're about to do something. There are our lovely panelists with their contact details that if you're live, you've got in the chat box. Otherwise, you will have links somewhere near here right now. So a huge thank you to RJ, John, Neil, Lauren, and Antoine for joining us today. And the last thing to tell you all before we turn off is that right now we are covering email marketing. As Antoine was saying, it is the channel you own. You own those email addresses. And right now you can listen to our Perfect Post Purchases campaign with the marvelous Jessica Totillo-Costa. Tomorrow going live is signups into buyers with the Welcome campaign with Val Geisler. Then we're doing list growth, which currently on my slide deck says list growth, but is actually Gabe from Omnisend, and it's a corker of an episode. We got some really cool stuff in that one. Then we're going into segmentation that links into your Facebook ads, so quite relevant for all of you listening or watching this session. And then finally, we're talking SMS marketing and where does that fit with it all? All of that you'll find on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as it goes live if you search for Keep Optimizing, or you'll find it all at keepoptimizing.com as well. So thank you all of you for tuning in and asking your questions. Love that some of you are actually saying thank you in the chat. That's awesome. Thank you to all the guests, and from all of us right now, get rid of that one, get that one. It's goodbye and have a great afternoon or morning, depending on where you are in the world.